In this video, I'm going to be explaining how I overcome trauma through meditation and how you can do the same. To begin with, I just want to talk about the impact of trauma and why this is one of the worst injuries a human being can be wounded with. So what trauma does essentially is it disconnects you from yourself. And this disconnection from yourself is the root cause of all your struggles and suffering and problems. When you are disconnected from yourself, you experience a lot of uncomfortable emotion, anxiety, depression, resentment, anger, frustration, stress, whatever. It's always coming because you have lost that base, right? You have a certain base connection. When that connection goes, probably no fault of your own, life just becomes very, very turbulent. And when you lose that connection with yourself, you also lose connection with other people. Your relationships and connection with others is a direct reflection of the connection you have with yourself. And if you have the injury of trauma, you've lost connection with yourself, you're really going to struggle with other people, you're really going to struggle with other relationships. This will also make it difficult for you to actually change your life. You'll probably feel unmotivated. You won't really feel like you can do the things you want to do. You'll feel like everything's a struggle, everything's hard. That's because you're not functioning optimally. For you to function at your best, you need to be connected to yourself. And for those of you who are traumatized, you're probably living in these survival states. The most common one you're probably familiar with is fight or flight. Does fight or flight sound healthy to you? No, it sounds like you're ready to go to war. Now, a lot of people are stuck in these states. If you're stuck in that survival state, that's not an optimal time for you to build healthy relationships, for you to actually move towards your goals. And I think a lot of people are trying to change their lives, but they're not healthy, they're not connected to self. So life just becomes very, very difficult, much more difficult than it ought to be. The opposite of that, of what it means to be healed, it means that you are connected to yourself. When you are connected to yourself, guess what? You have an easier time connecting to other people, right? You'll have healthier relationships. Furthermore, you'll also feel more connected to the world. When you feel more connected to the world, you won't feel like everybody's out to get you or everybody's conspiring against you. You'll actually feel like you have some agency and you can move toward the things that you want or change your life in the way that you want, because life is almost supporting you. When you don't have that connection, it feels like life is against you. And going beyond this, it connects you to the universe, the greater whole. It connects you to everything. And that is the foundation of your spiritual self. So if you have trauma, you are not going to be connected spiritually. To be connected spiritually means you need to be out of these survival states. You need to be connected to yourself first. Another great benefit of being connected to yourself is you become a lot more resilient. Resilient means you can handle the ups and downs of life. I'm going to share with you a model in a minute which explains this better, but you need to be resilient in this world. The world just is turbulent, it's unknown, it's uncertain, anything can happen at any moment, and without resilience, not only will you struggle with everything that happens, but you're really going to have problems moving towards the things in your life that you want to move toward, right? Because if you're taking on new challenges and unexpected things happen and you can't deal with them, you're not going to get very far. The skill of resilience is a natural byproduct of you just being connected to who you are. And just like the disconnected state puts you in survival mode or fight or flight, the connected state puts you in rest and digest. You conserve energy, your immune system functions better, you're just calmer, you have more clarity, you think better thoughts, you're more focused, you're more relaxed. This is the optimal state that human beings ought to be living in. And obviously that puts you in a high vibrational state. Everybody's talking about high vibrational state these days. If you have trauma, there's no way you can be in a high vibrational state, right? If you don't have peace of mind, you can't be in a high vibrational state. This isn't something that you can fake. You need to heal your trauma. So now I just want to introduce you to this model. It comes from the world of trauma healing. It's called the window of tolerance. You might be familiar with this. I'm just going to give you a brief explanation because I think it'll just help you kind of understand when you are connected to yourself and when you are not. So we've got these three areas. In the middle is your window of tolerance. This is when you are connected to yourself. You're in rest and digest. You're feeling good. You're finding it easy to relate to people. You're resilient. everything's just good. You're flowing. When you are triggered, you go out of this window of tolerance and you can go into hyperarousal, which is anxiety, stress, worry, fear, fight or flight. And like I said, a lot of people can get stuck here. Just little triggers can set them off and they get stuck in these survival states and they can stay there for too long. On the bottom end of the spectrum, we have hypoarousal. This is when you kind of shut down. You might go very sad, you might feel unmotivated or depressed. This is just another survival response. Something happens, it feels too overwhelming, and you just shut down. And some people actually prefer to be shut down in this way than to be stuck in anxiety and fear and stress. Either way, neither of these opposites are very healthy. You need to practice living in the window of tolerance, which is where meditation will help you. But this is where you need to be. And the first step in this process is to recognize when you are within your window of tolerance. When are you actually connected to yourself? Even if you're heavily traumatized, you will still have moments throughout the day where you are connected to yourself. They might be fleeting. You might not really recognize them because maybe 90% of your day is you just stuck in these survival states. But there will be moments when you are connected. Maybe it's when you're with a close friend or with your pets or close family member. Maybe it's just when you're on your own and you're reading a book or something. There's always moments when you're connected. The first step of this process before the meditation even begins, you need to start to pay attention to them times you are connected to yourself. Because like anything, without awareness, we don't know what we're working with. But the more awareness you can bring to these states of connection, the easier it's going to be for you to stay connected. So that's your first step. When are you connected to yourself? Just pay attention to it. What does it feel like? I'm going to ask you to get very conscious of how it feels in your body. There's a certain bodily feeling to connection. You might even feel it in your legs. A lot of us don't feel our bodies, right? You heard this a lot as well, that we don't live in our bodies, but you are your body. The more you feel in your body, the more connected you are to yourself. That's how you know you're growing, because you actually feel more embodied. That's when you know you're within your window of tolerance. It's also important to know when you are triggered or what sets you off, what kicks you out of your window of tolerance, what kicks you out of that connection to self. When you've done the first exercise of becoming familiar of what connection feels like, even though it might only be for short periods of time, now you've got a reference point. You've got something to direct at. You've got something to aim at. Next thing you want to do is you want to start the meditation practice, and this would be to just try to recreate that feeling of connection, whatever that means. I would suggest you really bring your awareness into your body. Feel your legs, feel all of your torso, everything that's going on. Keep bringing your consciousness into your body. At the beginning, this might be difficult. It's difficult because the things that are blocking your connection to yourself is things like trauma, tension, contractions in your body, repressed emotions. So as you begin to become more present, all of that stuff's going to get uncomfortable. The emotions are going to start to want to shift and move because so far it's been running you. You haven't been paying much attention to it. Because you now have that reference point of connection and you're consciously trying to connect to yourself, everything that's in the way of that connection will start to get out of the way. As it starts to get out of the way, it creates discomfort. It doesn't feel comfortable, right? Because you're going to have to release stuff. And for some of you, when you first start meditating, closing your eyes, you can't do it because all of that stuff comes up. But if you can get to a place where you can close your eyes and you can feel that connection to yourself and just hold that for like 10-15 minutes a couple of times a day. Like I said, it's going to start bringing up all the stuff that's blocking your connection. And as that stuff comes up, you can begin to process it. For me personally, I processed a lot of stuff through dreams. So when I was releasing a lot of this stuff, I would have very kind of vivid dreams with strong emotional content. Like they would wake me up in the middle of the night. Like it would be very, very scary dreams actually. But I just knew my system was releasing because the connection to myself was getting stronger. So that stuff has to be released. And the final step of this process is to take this connection out into the world. So when you've been practicing it in meditation, you kind of got used to it. You know what it feels like to be connected. You still may get triggered from time to time. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean you're always going to be in a state of bliss. Sometimes, yeah, you're still going to get triggered. You're still human. You've still got that programming there. Doesn't mean it's all gone, but most of the time you should be feeling connected. Then you start to take that out into the world. So this is when you really start to practice staying connected. When you're in difficult situations or when you're facing a certain challenge, it doesn't have to be a matter of life and death, but maybe it's just talking to your boss. When in the past that would have disconnected you, you've now been practicing that feeling of connection, so when you're talking to your boss, you can stay connected. Or when you're taking on this new challenge or this new goal, you can stay connected. Or when you're around some new people who would usually have made you a bit anxious or socially anxious, you can stay connected because you've been practicing it. And the more you practice it, the more you do it, especially out in the world and in meditation, that just becomes your default state. Taking it out in the world is just an active meditation until it becomes your natural default. So you're always practicing it. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it also brings a lot of peace and well-being and resilience and connection and all the good stuff that comes with it. It pays back 10 times more than what you give it. And like I said, eventually it'll just become your natural state. Your body will naturally want to be in that state more often, and you'll just begin to release more and more. The trauma will leave you. Use the meditation as practice to stay connected to yourself. To get there, pay attention to them times where you feel self-connection. And then you just want to practice that everywhere you go. Take it with you everywhere you go. It'll change your whole life. Then you'll really get to know who you are and what you're here to do. And that's all really. You'll be more present and more peace, more enjoyment. Okay, so I hope this video helps some of you out. If you have anything to add about your own experience with meditation or trauma, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, if you did enjoy the video, please go ahead, give it a like, share, subscribe. But until next time, God bless.